everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone.
The spooky Nikki Kinzer.
Yeah, so spooky.
It's a weird day, right? I mean, we're recording this, so by the time you hear this, the weekend will have passed, but we're recording this before the weekend, so it's October 30th, and because there's no school tomorrow, we get 2 Halloween days here in the United States.
Yes.
And it's weird.
Yes, my kids were dressed up.
What did they do? What did they go as?
My daughter was a bumblebee.
Excellent.
And my son, for his outfit for school, he was a football player, which is not really
that's kind of low-hanging fruit for him, right?
yeah, he basically just put his uniform on and went to school. But for tomorrow evening, for actual Halloween, I don't really know what he is. He got one of those, I can't remember what they're called, but they're those suits that you can get, and they're just all solid colors. And so you can get like a red suit, a green suit. He got a black suit. And so he's all black,
like a head to toe, like a vinyl, one of those vinyl kind of bodysuit things where you're like a Blue Man Group.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a party. I think it's called a party bodysuit. Is what the is what it said. And then he's got and then he's got a top hat. A black top hat.
Can he not see through it? Like it covers his face too, right?
It covers his face, but he said he can actually see through it. Yeah,
because it's so thin. I imagine it's thin enough. Yeah. That is the very strange thing.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's like a shadow or, is he a black dot? I don't really know. I mean, it's just, he's 13. And so he's in that weird, like, I mean, are you too old to even go trick-or-treating? I mean, like, that's what I was saying, so I don't know. It's this weird, he's in this weird little stage of his life right now.
That is really funny.
So we wanted to put those, those lights that that are fluorescent, and they kind of, you can dance and then you look like,
yeah.
Talking about?
It's kind of like glow sticks, but they're like the luminescent dots you can put on, like strings that you can put on yourself.
So I thought that would be like a really good safety measure for him. And he looked at me like I was crazy. So I'm going to be a little concerned. He's still going with us. I'm not letting him go by himself. So I'm going to be very concerned that he stays on the sidewalk, because I literally don't think you're going to see him.
No, he's all black.
You will run right into this kid.
That is hysterical.
That was,
Where did that come from? Is that like a millennial thing? Is that like millennial influence down the chain?
We went to a Halloween store, like one of those little mega stores, and he was looking around, and I thought he'd be like a zombie or some kind of monster or something. And he came back with this outfit. Yeah. And a top hat. He looks really good in the top hat, though. I got to give him
crazy. That's really funny.
Yeah. What about your kids?
My daughter is also 13, and she manufactured a very cool spider outfit. Costume, and she's wearing like a ski cap, and she put like 400 googly eyeballs on it.
Cool.
And she's wearing just like a fitted kind of running black like running top, right? And she has strung arms underneath it, and the arms are connected to her arms, so when she like moves her arms, all the arms move together, and it's very cool. She is also in all black, is an all black spider. So I didn't even think about, now I do want to string her with lights. And I think it would actually be very cool to string her with lights. But my son is Ron Weasley.
Who's Ron Weasley?
Ron Weasley from Who's Ron Weasley? Nikki.
I have no idea.
From Harry Potter, Harry's best friend.
Oh, yeah. See, I've never read the book.
Stop. Don't talk. Don't stop. No, just stop talking.
Sorry.
We can't have this conversation. I'm pretending I never heard it. Nikki is a huge fan of Harry Potter and has read all the books and seen all the movies. There, we're going to erase it and go back.
Sorry.
That was close. Anyway.
Never seen Star Wars either. People are probably thinking, oh my God.
That's the silence. I want you to feel like I just hung up on you.
I know. I'm sorry.
I already bought tickets for my whole family to go see it 2 months in advance when episode 7 comes out. Wow. You have shamed yourself in this podcast. You don't need any help from me.
I'm sorry.
So just know that I will support you through your darkest hours coming up through the holidays. Anyway, Ron Weasley is Harry Potter's best friend. And since everybody goes as Harry Potter or Hermione, Nicholas said, I think I need to be Ron, because who goes as Ron? Get me some orange hairspray. And so, because Ron Weasley has, as you well know, this bright mop of red hair. So we sprayed his hair all red, and he actually looks like he has like an orange polyurethane helmet on, which is sort of absurd. Anyway, he's very excited today. It's, of course, raining, so who knows the condition of his head by the time he gets home.
That's all right. He's having fun.
He is having a ball. So this gets us to our conversation today. We're going to be talking about how to like the holidays again, because it is, by the time this episode goes live and you're listening to it, that's right, Halloween is over, and we're full on into Christmas.
Yeah, almost Thanksgiving and Christmas.
The holidays are here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we do, head over to TakeControlADHD.com and get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show there on the website or subscribe to our mailing list. And right there on the homepage, just click the blue button and get an email with the latest episodes each week. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at TakeControlADHD, or call us. Leave us a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD and get your voice and thoughts right on this very show. We would love to hear from you. Okay, here we go. How to like the holidays again.
Well, and then / setting some boundaries, right?
Yes.
That's going to be kind of the key, I think, to liking the holidays again.
Because what is our presumption there? Our presumption there is that there is a great deal of overwhelm and stress that comes with the holidays.
Yeah, and pressure. I think that overwhelm, stress, pressure. I mean, I even know, like, with the last couple of weeks trying to figure out what the kids are going to be for Halloween, there was some pressure there, like, especially my daughter, because she kept changing her mind, like, constantly. But once we finally got the outfits, bought, it was like, just such a relief. Once we went to the pumpkin patch and we had that activity taken care of, and we all had a good time, it was like, okay, I did it.
Yeah, right.
This is good. We can really enjoy, Halloween. Now, of course, like you said, we're now full on into Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's such a busy time. It can be so overwhelming, and there's pressure because, everybody's enjoy the holidays, and this is the time to reconnect and really have a good time and kind of reflect. But that does come with a lot of pressure. And so, what we want to do is, I'm starting this kind of series early because, it is November. And if we wait until December, I almost feel like it's too late.
Really, we should start it as soon as Starbucks launches the pumpkin spice latte. That has appeared to become a national holiday. That's when we should start our stress in the holiday series each year.
That's right, because it is. It's sort of that notification,
Yes.
It's coming, it's here, it's right around the corner. And actually, I got the idea about setting boundaries from a client of mine who was having a really difficult time setting boundaries, just not over the holidays, but just sort of in general. And I thought, I think that one of the reasons that people don't like the holidays is it really does come down to, what boundaries do we set for ourselves? Are we sticking to those boundaries? Are we saying yes to too many things? Are we spending too much money on gifts? Are we, dealing with crowds that we don't want to have to deal with? I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that can kind of drain your energy. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about is how do we set those boundaries so you can enjoy the holidays and not run around in chaos all the time.
Okay. I like it. And I can feel it. So this is a good time because I think part of the challenge that I deal with is something we've talked about over the last, several weeks, which is this idea of structure to fight overwhelm, right?
Right.
And so this whole idea of the increased stress of the season leads to that sense that, I'm just going to give up. That's the ADHD trigger is going to give up, and I'm going to end up, I always worry that I'm going to end up doing something ridiculous, like spend the month of November reorganizing my CDs that I don't even listen to anymore, right? I will just, I'll fall into the black hole of a hyperfocus project, and I will not have the energy or the strength to get out of it.
To deal with the other stuff. That's right. Well, and if you think about it, the things that stress us most about the holidays, we really do have some control over, and we can eliminate some of those things. So I have some questions for people to kind of sit back and think about when you're setting boundaries around the holidays. And the first question is it's pretty obvious, but we want to sit down and just think about what is it that you like to do? What are the things that you enjoy about the holidays? And those are going to be your priorities. Those are going to be the things that you're going to want to definitely schedule in. But I think it's worth just sitting and thinking about for, a few minutes, like, what is it that you really like doing? And what don't you enjoy? And of course, those are going to be the things that we can start eliminating. Traditions, everybody has different traditions and things that they like to do. And then there's some that you dread. And so are there ways to kind of tweak some of those traditions or make them easier? We've in the past, we've talked about should, I should do this, I should do that. That's kind of a red flag word. If you're feeling, if you're saying that to yourself, you might want to sit back and think, okay, why do I feel like I have to do this? And really, what can you let go? What are the things that you can let go? I remember you and I talking about Christmas cards like a couple of years ago about how that just seems so outdated now, right? Because of Facebook and social media. And so if that's a pressure for you, then don't do it, don't do it. Who cares? All right, let it go.
Yeah, it's that obligation, that perceived obligation. And I know there are people out there that feel like if they don't hear from you at Christmas time, then the relationship is somehow, faltering. I know there are people in my own family that feel that way, that when they don't get an annual letter from us, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I find I can't take ownership of their stress over that.
No.
All I can do is love them the way I can love them. And that includes Facebook and calls and texts and those sorts of things. But sitting down and going through the prep of the postcard and the letter and the printing and all that stuff, I personally get really wrought by the idea of it. And that becomes a clogging task that impacts everything through my holiday season.
Absolutely. Well, and it's just not something, if it's not fun and you don't want to do it, then don't do it, And I think that, answering some of these questions, it's going to give you a little bit more intention for the holiday season. And so you can kind of walk into it with excitement rather than, fear or dread. And I think that when we talk about boundaries, and especially when I go back to what inspired me to talk about this in the first place, it's around time. It's about, boundaries around your time. And so one of the best, strategies that I have found is that before you say yes to anything, you have to kind of pause and wait before you commit to anything, and just let the person, who's ever asking you, whatever it is that they're asking you to do. I don't know yet, let me get back to you. Thank you for asking. I got to check my schedule. I mean, you've got to pause and don't just instinctively or impulsively say yes.
This is so good. And I want to reflect on this because this was something that you had recommended, I think, last year. And it is probably the one thing that I have kept in my head more than any other. And throughout the rest of the year too, right? Which is just don't commit immediately. Right? You know if something is really something that you have to commit to immediately. And it's very rare when those things come across your desk.
It is. And so many bad things can happen when you do that, right? You're overbooking yourself, or you're committing to things that you don't care about. And again, there's the stress, there's the overwhelm, because now you've got too much on your plate. And the other thing, or the other piece to that too, I think, is that you're not fully present to the things that you really want to be a part of, because you're just stressed out about everything else that's on your plate. And so to kind of eliminate some of that, and really to be more mindful during the holidays and to be more present, you've got to not say yes to everything. And you got to look at your calendar. We've talked about this over and over again about how important it is to look at your calendar before you say yes to anything. And does it make sense? Does it match up to your values? Is it something your family wants to do? Because it affects them too, right? I mean, it affects, a lot of different aspects. And so, I think that's important. And the other piece that I think people kind of forget about is the downtime that they need to have during the holiday season. That, when is the time that you have where you're not going to schedule everything? Because it's really stressful to walk into a week where you have something planned every single night of that week, plus work on top of it, right? I mean, it's awful. And so, when are the days or evenings that you want to protect where you just know that the only thing you have to do is go home?
Yes.
and have one or two of those evenings and mark it in your calendar and protect it and don't schedule anything in it. I think that's going to make people feel a little bit more in control, because then they at least know that they have that to kind of regroup. Mm-hmm. Which can make a big difference.
It's huge. And it goes back to that tip we've talked about a number of times, which is schedule all your time on your calendar, even the time that is yours, because you deserve to own your time. And that calendar is a reflection of your ownership of your time.
That's right. Well, and in my next point really falls into that, because it's the self-care. It's also remembering to make your exercise appointments that hopefully at this point you've already put into your schedule, right? But that's the thing, is making sure you're paying attention to your self-care, because as we've talked about with overwhelm, part of becoming overwhelmed, or I guess the consequence to that, is everything's going to feel worse if you're not taking care of yourself. So we got to remember that this is a priority. And we got to protect that time too, and really pay attention to your exercise, your nutrition, how you're feeding yourself, how you're sleeping. All of those things are going to really they're going to matter, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. On liking the holidays again, right. It's all going to make a difference. The other thing that you kind of started talking about was that there's people waiting for this letter, and that can put some shame on you. Like,
God.
Guilt.
Amen.
Like I need to be doing it this way, or I need to make sure that I have Christmas at this person's house, and how do I do it all? And that's hard. And so I think it's a matter of listening to what you're saying to yourself, and knowing that you probably are or may disappoint some people. And so how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to respond? Are you going to not respond? But kind of think it through a little bit, but then at the same time, be okay that you're doing what you need to do for yourself, for your own mental health, and for your family. And, you can try to explain it to them. If it doesn't work, it's okay. I mean, you're still doing what's right for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's a very difficult lesson or muscle to develop, to not take ownership of somebody else's pain.
That's right. Yeah.
It's really hard to do, but it's so valuable.
Yeah. So,
this is like everything. When I think about it, when we get people who just love writing absurdly mean comments about work that we create, or podcast episodes, or, comment on stuff that is out of our control, and take real joy in trying to bring other people down by getting it off their chest. How important is it that we not take ownership of their pain? Of somebody else's trigger, because that becomes a debilitating force. Mm-hmm. And a huge weight, and you can't carry that, especially during the holidays.
No, there's other things that you can focus on that is a lot more positive.
Yeah, right.
For sure. Right. So next week, I want to kind of dive into a little bit more of the anxiety that's around the holidays. And I know one of the areas that I get really anxious about is money. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about that next week. And we've got some other things I want to touch on that's more about the anxiety in the holidays. So it's sort of like part 2 of this, know.
Excellent. Well, and I think that's really important to get into some of the practical tools that you use, or you work with when you're coaching folks. What are the practical tools that they use every day to kind of help them keep that framework? That's what I'm really interested in, looking at some of those practices. What are the practices that I can take into my daily, weekly, monthly life over the next 2 months to get me through to January 3rd? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
excellent.
Good stuff.
Thank you very much, Nikki Kinzer. Thank you all for downloading and listening to the show. Once again, Take Control ADHD. Join the mailing list. Get access to all these great resources that Nikki has created. And we will see you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.